Well, hello. With me here tonight is Mr. Constant. To me, he was a math teacher, eighth grade algebra, but he is above that a mentor and a role model for me and many other people in this community that he taught. Mr. C, as any of his former students will know him, is a Navy veteran, a volunteer firefighter, and a retired teacher over 20 years. He was my Algebra 1 teacher in 2020 and 2021, which is to say that COVID was still in full swing. And this was the first year of virtual school and Zoom classes and alternating schedules. And for most students, especially in the beginning, this was a somewhat stressful time with learning the technology as well as trying to learn online and keep a decent grade. I remember the 45 minutes a day of Mr. C's class is a completely different experience when compared to others. What was perhaps expected to be jam-packed with learning math was instead a combination of life lessons, stories, and overall an actually enjoyable experience. It was more like a talk with an old friend than it was being taught algebra. But at the same time, I was learning the material better than I had ever comprehended any math in my life. And in part, this was because of the depth that he cares about his students. He can explain the same concept in 10 different ways. Basically, he has a rare ability to explain things in a way that most people understand. If it took all day for the class to competently solve one problem, then so be it. And with this, not all the work would get done, and perhaps what was scheduled would not be completed. But this is where Mr. C differs from many of the other teachers that I've had. Class was never over with 30 confused people who had been force-fed curriculum for 90 minutes. I never once walked out of his room feeling stressed or confused or overloaded in any way. Essentially, we got taught the value of quality over quantity. And as he often said, number one rule in life is not fair. And so in keeping with this, he made sure that all of his students had the confidence to speak up when things were wrong. I remember the nearly impossible pop quiz he gave early in the year. This was a seriously hard quiz. Everybody was definitely going to fail it. But in the first week, he had promised no surprise quizzes in my class. After he had all 30 in his hand, he asked what he'd done wrong that morning. Somebody said, "Well, you promised no pop quizzes." And he said, "You're right," and he dumped the whole stack in the trash. And that was a memorable day, and one that taught a lot more than factoring equations. We learned that you needed to speak up for yourself because life isn't fair. Only you care about you and your best interests. And Mr. C always encouraged me to ask questions, no matter how simple, no matter what anybody else may think. If you're confused, just ask it. I think I raised my hand in that class more than in the last 10 years combined, but it's a skill that served me well, particularly in the workforce. Always ask and always repeat back the answer. I remember a guy laughed at a girl for her question one day. He was out in the hallway crying within 2 minutes. Didn't come back the whole day. Under nearly all circumstances, this was a very relaxing class. Mr. C, he's an excellent storyteller, certainly has no shortage of stories to pull from the military and life. And these aren't random stories either. They all had a lesson within them, whether it be of hard work, honesty, patience, or family values. With this type of class, he took some criticism both from students and administrators, mostly along the lines of, "Why is the class half over and the lesson hasn't started yet?" And for this reason, the door never was closed. As he said on day one, "A lot of people don't like me very much, and that's okay. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not for everyone." Unlike many math teachers, Mr. C encouraged his students to use other methods to reach the solution than the one he taught, as long as you could prove that it worked and it reached the end goal. Now, I can't speak for others, but I've taken this sentiment far beyond that class. Now, whether it be at school, at work, in depths of some breakdown or calamity, or working on vehicles or whatever, I still think back to those days. There's more than one way to do anything. As long as it works, don't let anybody tell you that it's the wrong way. If you work through anything with patience and a calm approach, and things work out better in the end. Believe, focus, and try. It was repeated so many times I'll probably never forget it. And I could go on telling stories about his stories for the next few hours, but I won't. And in the end, Mr. C inspired me to be the best person I could be, just as he inspired thousands of other people over his career. He's a role model in every way. He says what needs to be said, does what needs to be done, but does it in a kind manner. He's a straight-up kind of guy, one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. And to anyone who's ever attended the monthly community breakfast at the VFW, man can make a mighty fine waffle.
This Saturday.
7 a.m. I've had a host of wonderful teachers throughout my 13 years in this school system, and all deserve recognition, but never have I had a teacher whom as many people, including myself, looked up to as Mr. Constant, who has imparted so much wisdom on his students that went beyond the classroom. As he always said, "You are my future. I'm investing in my future." So thank you, Mr. C.